A pleasant afternoon to each and everyone, most especially to our professor, Miss Marilyn Mercado Balbas. So, for today's video, I am going to discuss about the learning competencies. But before that, let me introduce myself first. So, I am Judy Bordaje, third-year Bachelor of Elementary Education from Block 301. So now, let us proceed to discuss what really learning competencies mean. I know that we are all familiar and had an idea of what learning competencies is. But let me to clear and enlarge the information that I've gathered. So, from the reference book of assessment of student learning 2, it states that learning competencies define as groups or clusters of skills and abilities needed for a particular task. The objectives also focus on the behavior which exemplify best practice for the particular task. So, meaning, learning competencies as a general statement that describe the use of desired knowledge, skills, behaviors, and even the abilities of one individual. Because learning competencies is the main ideas or skills you expect a student to master. So, to make explanation short, learning competencies is called a goal that students are expected to know and be able to demonstrate as indicator of understanding the content standard. I have here an example of learning competencies for a process-oriented performance-based assessment. But before I proceed, let me define it first what process-oriented performance-based assessment mean. So, when we say process-oriented performance-based assessment, it is concerned with the actual task performance rather than the output, or let's say for instance the product of the activity. That's why I have here an example for process-oriented performance-based assessment for us to have a better understanding about this matter. So, the task is recite a poem by Edgar Allan Poe entitled The Raven. And the objective is the activity aims to enable the student to recite a poem entitled The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. Specifically to first, recite the poem from the memory without referring to notes. The second one is use appropriate hand and body gesture in delivering the piece. The third one is maintain eye contact with the audience while reciting the poem. The other one is create the ambience of the poem through appropriate rising and falling intonation. And the last one is pronounce the words clearly and with proper diction. So, as I've noticed, the specifically objectives of this task entitled The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe was more and about actual task performance, which is related to process-oriented performance-based assessment, because I've discovered that the objectives start with a general statement of what is expected of the student from the task, which is the recite a poem by Edgar Allan Poe, and it breaks down the general objectives into easily observable behaviors. So, this idea is to progress from simple tasks to more complex, from concrete to more abstract. So, for us to have a better understanding about the simple competencies and complex competencies, I have here an example of each the set of competencies. So, in differentiating between two competencies, which is the simple and complex competencies, through the given example, I've noticed that the given example of simple competencies, which are the speak with a well-modulated voice, draw a straight line from one point to another point, and by coloring a leaf with a green crayon. So it's shown how the simple competencies is concrete, understandable, and easily to execute, unlike the complex competencies, because the following example are: first, recite a poem with feelings using appropriate voice quality, facial expression, and hand gestures. Another one is construct an equilateral triangle given 3 non-collinear points. And lastly is draw and color a leaf with green crayon. So, to make it a short explanation, complex competencies is more abstract than simple competencies. Why? Because when we say complex competencies, the given task aims to develop, actively participate, and empower learners' foreign language discourse competencies. That's all of my assigned topic, and thank you for listening.